the start of life and the end of life, and I heard it recently, the start of life and the end of life are kind of like the only definitive real things that you cannot change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything in between is, as Shakespeare said, it's a stage, right? It comes, it goes. It's what's the worst that can happen? Just think about it, right? I mean, this is not the start and end of life. This is in between. This is the quality of life that you can build and you can work around. And what's the worst that can happen? So many times entrepreneurs were actually more successful after their biggest failures, but ultimately you can pivot and everything is going to be okay. You have what's called Hell Week in Bud's training, which is really Hell Week. Why are we not sleeping? Why is it we are constantly running around, diving, swimming, kickboxing, practicing weaponry? It was a nightmare. I mean, there's no two ways about it, right? And that's where I would say 40% of the unit quits, or the cadets quit. What was really the element that carried me through that? And to me, it was pretty simple. I never forget that. During Hell Week, all I needed to do is to think about two things. Number one is I closed my eyes and I thought about the fact that I want it to be Friday, and it will be Friday at some point.
Eventually.
Okay. So what's the worst that can happen? I've started the military. I've seen a couple of different wars in Israel and the Middle East. And then I came here and basically dove into the entrepreneurial lifestyle without looking back. But every time I see a sick child, or every time I see a child that is at a disadvantage, whether it's economically, whether it's from social environment, and obviously an orphan child, it just breaks my heart. It's kind of like in the family we call it my kryptonite. So I realized at a young age that that's something I cared deeply about, and it's just in my DNA. I just feel that kids have this obviously inherent disadvantage of their ability to actually solve their problems, and it developed to be my kryptonite. So I made it a mission to really be constantly involved in everything that revolves around children education and medical needs. We have a company we call the Management Development Program, and we actually had this conversation about the difference between dopamine and actually the power of the congregation or the power of the network. It is much more powerful where you see a child smiling and being grateful to something you've done for them, as opposed to you going to Facebook and getting 10 likes, which drives your dopamine creation, right? So when you're doing something for the better goods or for some external goal, it's much stronger than if you did it just for vanity purposes or for your internal selfish wants and needs. As my grandma used to say, not all fingers are the same length, right? Not everything created equal kind of thing. And that there's sometimes unfair advantage to some groups, whether it's budget, whether it's geolocation. And the real estate was obviously a catalyst for us, like I said. So ultimately, we realized that the solopreneurs, right, and the small businesses, not even an SMB, but the small businesses in the space of real estate, which you're talking about, 2 million businesses, license holders in the space of real estate, are constantly struggling with the idea of having a constant drive, constant push, constant ability to either perform, budget, and in an economical way to scale that business, right? So that's kind of like where SetSchedule was born, from the idea of controlling the schedule better, hence the SetSchedule, and doing it in an economical way that enables you to grow your business and be competitive.
If you enjoy this podcast, please make sure to subscribe. And to stay updated on everything that the Action Catalyst is up to, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Action Catalyst Podcast, and on Twitter at Catalyst_Action. And thanks for listening.